Back with some new motivation. So today we're gonna finish the fuel system on this thing so we can finally get it started. And we have some other stuff we have to do. We have to fill up oil, we have to build up oil pressure, then put in the distributor and put in spark plugs and stuff like that. But all in all, there's not much left before we can try and start this thing and hopefully not break it. So we're gonna work on that. So I got the feed done from the fuel pump up to the carb, and I didn't really have the fitting I wanted down here, but I made it work. And I started to blow out this line so that we can plug or connect the whole system. So I done something like this, and I was not sure if we were getting something out, but then there came a very, very familiar smell. And if you have smelled old fuel, you know exactly what I'm talking about. And I'm not sure, I mean, I work mostly on old American cars, which have old American fuel in it. And I'm not sure if this is a smell that is special to the kind of fuel with the kind of additives that you were using in America in back in the day. I mean, I think this has been sitting for at least 20, probably 30 years. But I haven't come across old Swedish fuel, so I'm not sure if the additives makes a difference. But it's a very, very familiar smell with the old fuel, at least old American fuel. I don't know the difference. But as you can see, we have a little bit of a puddle here, and I can't believe that there has been fuel in the line that hasn't aired out over the years. But the good thing is it isn't clogged, so also it's a bit dirty. So I'm gonna go ahead, shoot some brake cleaner through, blow some more air through, put on a filter in the front, and then we can use this. Hopefully it doesn't leak, but then we can add a little fuel hose here, put a boat tank here under the package tray, and have a fully functional fuel system that we can actually use and drive a little bit with. So yeah, gonna blow it out and install a tank. Tank is in and hooked up. So now when the day comes then that we have a proper fuel tank, we can just hook it up and know that it will work. So that's all great. And if we go here to the front, we have this hooked up also, which obviously don't look that perfect, but I think GM did this a little bit bad because, I mean, this comes out here and here is the fitting for the fuel pump. And however you do it, you have to take a pretty sharp turn. And also I wanted to have a fuel filter here on the suction side and not on the pressure side. So I did it like this. I can redo it later, but it's going to work and it's not a sharp bend. So yeah, I also removed this, sucked a little bit here so that I got fuel to the filter. Everything to make this just fire off and run immediately. And I have never broken a cam before. Some say that it is super important. It has to start directly. It has to go up to like 2,000-3,000 RPM and stay there for 20 minutes and then you turn it off. Some say they just put in the cam and go out and drive and they are fine. So I don't know what's wrong or right, but might as well try and do it as good as we can. So I do everything right now in preparation for this to just turn on and I was going to say idle, but of course you're gonna turn up the idle to make it idle pretty high. I'm guessing that is to get better oil pressure to get oil everywhere. But with that said, the fuel system is done. I'm just gonna plug off this. And of course I'm not gonna hook up this or anything. We just run the throttle from here. So that's all good. So I think the only thing left is we're gonna fill it up with water. We're gonna run some oil pressure, run up the oil pressure and see, I guess we should run it until we see oil out of the rockers, because we get oil out of the rockers, we know that oil has gone through into the lifter and through up to the engine, and I'm guessing that is the last place on the oil feed system that gets oil. It is at least the highest point in the oil system. So if we get oil there, we know that we probably have oil everywhere. And then I wanna, as fast as possible, remove my oil pressure thing, down with the distributor, hopefully at the right place, and just fire it off when we have as much oil as possible in the engine. So that's the plan. So I'm gonna go ahead, fill it up with water, and then we can pump up some oil pressure. Now we're really close. I am trying to get some oil pressure through the push rods. I have put in spark plugs. I have put the engine at top dead center. What have I done? Some small stuff. But I've been pumping oil pressure here for a couple of minutes, and we're currently getting some oil here and at 2 rockers on the other side. So I'm just going like this. And I'm gonna continue doing this until we have oil at all the rockers. Then we can remove that, put in the distributor, and hopefully start this thing up. Work smarter, not harder. I taped the button so it could go for itself over there. We have oil at all the rockers over here. But on the driver's side, it's a bit slower for some reason. We have on these 3 rockers, but not on the rest. So I guess we'll keep going here for a few minutes, see if we can get oil to everything. And yeah, hopefully we can start this. After a lot of pumping, we finally have oil on all the rockers. And you see that I had to pick this up because I have been pumping for easily 5 minutes. But I actually had to turn over the engine a bit before these 5 rockers got some oil, and I'm not sure how that works. But we're getting oil everywhere, so I'm not worried. So yeah, we're done with that. So now I'm gonna change out the valve covers, put in the distributor, spark plug wires, and then I think we're finally ready to start this thing. I believe we're finally ready. We're full of water, doesn't leak anywhere. We know we have oil, we know we have oil pressure, we know we have oil everywhere. I have filled up the carb with fuel, I put in the distributor, I've given it some advance. Spark plug wires are on. I guess it's just time to try and start this thing. And I know why I'm so nervous, but I have never started I have started fresh engines, but that has always been with supervision of my dad, and now I'm doing this by myself. It's not a fresh engine, but it is a cam replace, which in itself presents some issues. But just gonna rip off the band-aid and start this thing. Exakt det som inte ska hända. Ja, jag vet. Jag har glömt att stoppa i den här till fördela. Nu jävlar. Nu kommer det bara... BAM! Hoppas vi. Jävlar. I would say that's a success. Have I broken in the cam properly? I don't know. I hope so. I checked some YouTube videos. People say 20 minutes, 25 minutes, 30 minutes, 1500 RPM, 2500 RPM. There's as much rules as there are people. So I don't know. Did I do it wrong or right? I didn't have any way to measure the RPM. I just set it at a decently high RPM. And I'm not really sure why you're doing this. first I thought that you wanted some heat into the cam so that it would harden in some way, but then I thought that the temperature that the engine reaches isn't that high for a cast iron piece to really do anything. So I mean, I don't if that's what it is, or is it just that you want to know that you have good oil pressure or enough oil during the first minutes of the cam's rotation, so that's why you run it at a higher RPM, so you don't go out in traffic or just let it idle for an hour or so. But anyway, I have done what I can to hopefully not having that cam go bad. So I hope that I did it right. So now we're basically done with phase 1 or whatever you want to call it. Now we can just keep on working, putting stuff on, and work towards getting it drivable. So I'm gonna take a short break here, and then we just continue working. So it's been a few minutes, and I'm thinking, what can we do now? And first I was like, wait, there's not much really we can do before we get the flywheel and can do all of that stuff. But there is some stuff we can do, and I have a little list here in the background, but it's in Swedish, so I'm just gonna tell you. I need to put in I don't need to, but I want to put in a power steering pump. I don't have the hoses, so I have to order hoses. Not critical, but it's nice to have, and it's a power steering box, so I want to make it functional. But it's not life depending. I want to build an exhaust. Either we build some temporary, or might as well build the exhaust that I want to have. So I'm gonna lift it up on jack stands and look at whatever exhaust we're going to build. And besides that, I need to fix a drive shaft. If I'm really lucky, I have one that fits. Probably not, and we have to build one, which is a project in itself. We need to cut a hole for the shifter, and for now I'm just gonna cut a big hole so that the rods and everything can go in, because one of my viewers here in Sweden contacted me, and he said that he had a complete firewall and a complete floor from an old race car that was cut up 20 years ago that he wanted to give me. So I will be getting a completely rust-free floor. So for now we can just cut it out, and we can do it better when we have the new flooring. So that's something we can do. Also get the car up on jack stands to fix that. I want to put in a seat, of course, not super important right now. I don't have the interior for it. I have the rear seat and the front bench, but it is the worst interior I have ever come across in my life. I'm not the picky one. I can have some really crappy interiors, but the springs are all rusted out, and even the backrest on the driver's side has fallen off because the seat frame is so rusty. Also, we want to put bucket seats in it, so I want to find some bucket seats. I have some Suburban seats I can put in temporary, but I'm gonna look for some other seats. What else? Then we come to the parts that I've talked about earlier that were depending on parts. Put in flywheel, clutch linkage, header with the gaskets, steering column. When we have the steering column, we can start doing a proper electrical system so that we can start the car from inside the car and all of that, and getting the rest of the car to wake up. And what else? Yeah, I have a new master cylinder. I'm shipping out right now. I don't want to spend the money going through the brakes and the front suspension, so I only have master cylinder. Can I get one brake to work so I can drive it here in my backyard? That would be great, because my plan is to put this away for a little while and work on something else. But I want to be able to drive it in and out of the garage easily. So that's the plan. So with that said, put this up on jack stands. I have to clean a little bit. There is total mayhem everywhere, and I have a bad habit of just wreaking havoc, and then I want to finish what I'm doing so that I can drive the car out of the garage, clean everything, and drive it in again. Unfortunately, I can't do that. I mean, I could push it out and push it in again, but I don't want to do that. So yeah, I have to do some light cleaning right now. But yeah, fix that up on jack stands and continue working. Got the car up in the air, and I have cleaned a lot, taken out the engine hoist. I put that 350 that was standing in a corner in my cradle there so that I can take this out of the garage later on, so that I can get as much space as possible, because this is the worst thing I know, having stuff stacked against the walls, but on some cases it's necessary. But I mean, we're gonna get steering column in, shift linkage and stuff like that, so we're getting parts away all the time. So we're gonna see how if any of these will fit. I think this one will be too short. I really hope this one fits, because I mean, I can build a drive shaft. I have shortened a lot of drive shafts, but it's always nice when they fit right in. So if we're lucky, that one fits. But besides that, there's something else I want to do. And I started this engine. I just let it run on whatever 2000 RPM or what I settle at. And then I shut it right off, because I'm not, as I said before, I'm not sure whatever the point is with the cam brake in, if it wants a heat cycle. So I wanted to heat it up, let it cool off before I did anything else. And I'm really curious to hear that thing idling and give it some revs. But I only have open headers right now, which it's cool and all, but I really like to hear the sound from behind the car where it's supposed to come out. When you have no exhaust, it just feels like you have an extreme exhaust leak. With that said, my son asked me, can't we build an exhaust for this without mufflers? And I mean, of course I said yes. So I am going to build a proper exhaust for this, the exhaust it is supposed to have. I'm not going to do a temporary one. I am going to build it without mufflers and try it. If it's horrible, we can just cut it, put in some mufflers, and we're good. But I'm gonna try, see how it is. And with that said, I only have like an hour left here today, and I would really like to hear this thing idling, and I would like to hear it idling with some sort of exhaust that makes the sound come out the back. So I wanna see if I can do some super temporary, just for one startup, hear the idle, just so I can feel good here over the weekend, and then next week we can build a nice proper exhaust. Also, about the exhaust, I love to play around with exhausts. H-pipes, dual pipes, X-pipes, different mufflers, and I put in the cam in this engine only for the sound. So I really think it's fun to test different stuff. Now we're gonna test without mufflers, and for this car, I'm a big fan of X-pipe, but for this car, we're gonna do true duals, no crossover or anything, no H-pipe, no X-pipe, no anything. I know H-pipe, X-pipe is a little bit better. I've seen some dyno stuff with it, but for now, I want true dual and no crossover. So that's what we're gonna build. But we're gonna lay under the car, see if the drive shaft fits, and then figure out some simple exhaust for today, and then we're gonna build a proper one. I'm under the car here, and I thought I just want to show you how it looks. Obviously, the floor is shot, but that was nothing we didn't already know. But the frame is actually really decent. The only part where it gets rusty is here after the rear axle, and I knew that. So the rear frame it's bad, but I mean, it's fully fixable. We could patch this easily, and it's the same thing on the other side. Nothing we can't fix. So the frame I'm not worried about at all. It's this problem that we have to fix. And on this side looks good also. So yeah, no surprises there. So now I'm gonna go ahead, see if any of the drive shafts fit, and I'm not gonna do much about that today, but we're gonna see, then we'll see if we can do some exhaust. So the drive shaft that I had my money on didn't work at all. It was way too long. And this one, I mean, it is there. It's just hanging on the rear yoke. But you can see that we don't really have that much engagement. It would definitely work to drive it in and out of the garage, but I don't feel this something that I would like to do a burnout with. So unfortunately, I think we have to have another one, and we can see that this one is already butchered. I think this is for my 71 El Camino, which had it had a 6.2 diesel with a 700 R4, and yeah, I don't know, but I feel I would have wanted it to be an inch longer or so. But yeah, with that said, we're not going to be able to do anything more with the drive shaft here for today. So I'm going to put this aside and look at the exhaust. I took out the drive shaft and I marked where the rear seal on the transmission ended. So this is how much it goes into the transmission. But also the shaft sticks out about whatever that is, an inch, little less. So I would assume that it is about where the electrical tape ends, which means we have about 2.25 of inches of engagement, which I would say isn't all that bad. I mean, I would have liked it to be maybe there, but I'm gonna do some Googling and see what people say, how much engagement you should have. You need some wiggle room for when it moves, but it's pretty deep, so I mean, even if we had it in here, it would never have compressed completely. But yeah, anyone knows better than me how much engagement you should have or need, so you can tell me. But anyway, we're gonna leave the drive shafts now and see if we can do some crappy exhaust. Ever heard of straight pipes? They don't get much more straight than this. And as I said, this is super temporary. We're just gonna do one startup with it. The driver's side, I have even lengthened the last pipe with some duct tape just to get the exhaust out the back. I don't want to weld anything at all right now because I'm gonna leave home soon and I don't want to have any fires and stuff like that. So yeah, I've been waiting way too long for this, so now we're gonna start this and see how it sounds. Are you ready?
Even though we don't have any mufflers, not super loud at idle. I mean, we really don't have the compression, but we have the camshaft.
The last time I revved it. So it sounds really good at idle, but I'm not sure if it sounds that good when you rev it. So we'll see how we do with mufflers. Maybe we can add some super small thing just for the high pitch notes to even it out a little bit, but on idle it sounds fantastic and it's got the rough idle that I've been wanting to have in a car for a very long time, so I'm super happy with that. So yeah, really nice. Now we just have to do a proper exhaust. So I listened back to the clip since I was curious how it sounded, and the first off, how it sounds in the camera and to me here is two very different things. It is much louder at idle than it is on the video, so I feel I have to scream to the camera, but it feels like I'm screaming too much when you look at the video. But other than that, when I think it sounds awesome at idle, but when you rev it, it just has that, I can't really describe it in English, but I guess it has a very bad sounding, very non-muffler sound. And I mean, if we have exhaust leaks everywhere. We have no exhaust manifold gaskets, nothing all the way back. So if we built a proper exhaust all the way back over the rear axle, because all the way that the sound has to pass, it will change the sound. I believe it would sound better, but I'm not sure it would sound really good. It would sound good at idle, but not at higher. So with that said, I really like to work with exhaust. So now I have just put in these mufflers for test, and in other cases, I prefer Flowmaster chambered mufflers, but most recently I've kind of gone over to these. So I'm gonna try these. These are pretty long, and these are just straight through. No, nothing. This just has the insulation on the outsides, but you can look through them. So, I mean, we could use these. We could use these, but shorter ones. They are really short ones, just to get that high-pitched sound away. And I also think I have some chamber mufflers we can try. So we're gonna see how this sounds, and we can take it from there. But yeah, it's fun to test. Straight through muffler test. It's definitely a lot quieter. Too quiet for my opinion. But we can still hear that rough idle, which I really like. But these mufflers are definitely too big, at least now that we have so low compression. I'm gonna try and rev it. So it definitely got rid of that high pitch that I don't like, but it got rid of way too much else. So that ain't working. So I'm gonna go ahead and find some chamber mufflers that I have laying around, and we're gonna test those and see how that sounds. Now I have these on. I believe these are some Summit, since they say Sum on it and they don't say Flowmaster, but they're basically Flowmaster rip-offs. Some super, well, they call it the 4 series. So yeah, we'll see. Some more metallic sounding instead of these with the deep, what do I call it, mellow tone. So yeah, see how this sounds. Test with chambered mufflers. It sounds a lot better. Definitely the chamber mufflers is the way to go if you're going with mufflers. Flowmasters, they were probably 40 series. There are 10 series. There are these shorts that we could buy or something else. But even though I wanna go without mufflers since my son asked for it, I think this is the way to go, and this is how it will sound the best. So I'm really satisfied where we are right now. We have an engine in the car and it's installed. I mean, we have a cooling system. We can run it however long we want. I can talk, but we have a bunch of stuff we have to do, but we really have an engine in the car that works. It's just not an engine in the car that we don't know anything about. So I'm really satisfied with that. I'm really satisfied with the cam. It has just the right lumpy idle that I wanted, so that's super great. Maybe we can put some cylinder heads on it later on to bump up the compression and really make it sing. But we have to do some work to the exhaust. I don't think I can honor my son with what I said with not having mufflers, but I think we can do something so he will be happy with it. I have heard that you can make crosses in the exhaust, like a bar, so that will eliminate sound, like breaking the sound down, or however we want to call it. But otherwise I can go with a Super 10 Flowmaster, which might end up happening. I'm not sure, but definitely a chambered muffler is the way to go, and I want it to be louder than it is right now. So yeah, I'm a bit silly, but I really like loud cars. I think it's fun, and my son thinks it's fun. So yeah, that's why we're doing it. So that will be next week, but I'm up here right now. I'm so satisfied with what we have achieved. Shelly, the 75 Chevelle, can go and burn, but I guess we can tackle that when we're done with this thing. So yeah, I want to thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed it.